Well, hello, YouTube, and welcome back to The Daily Life. I'm the host, your star of Daily Life, Tom Johnson. I hope you have a good day today, even though it's raining out. I don't know where you live or are at the present moment in time, but I am where I live, on the east coast of North America. It's raining, which is kind of a downer, so why don't you lighten your mood by watching another hilarious episode of Daily Life. The subject for today is called classics. I'm going to talk about a number of different things that you can name or label as classic. Classics have a special place in many people's ideas of things. I guess the first thing that comes to mind is classic cars. A lot of people like to own and drive classic cars because they are seen as being classic, or they're seen as being of a higher value than regular cars. If you want to drive a 1976 Ford Mustang, for example, well, that's going to probably catch a lot more eyes than if you're driving down in like a 1997 Toyota Corolla, just as an example. Mustangs are collectibles. They're collectible cars, and they're classics. Now, classics go all the way back to the 50s, I would say. Once you get maybe the 40s, yeah. I mean, nobody wants to see you driving around like a Model T. That's not a classic car. That's ancient history. But a classic car. So, yeah. That's classic. The other thing that's classic, that's kind of like cars, is classic music. Now, there again, you might think that it's more valuable. Why might you think that? Well, first of all, it's been around for a long time. That's the first thing. And secondly, I don't know what my second point was supposed to be. Anyway. Yeah. So, anyways. Right. Classical music. I'm not a big fan of classical music. Now, classical music, where does that go back to? The 80s, that's not really classical. I'd say to get the classical music, you gotta go back to at least the 50s, and then beyond, like, past that point. So, like, Beethoven, Bach, Mozart. These are some classical musicians that I can think of off the top of my head. I don't know anymore. I'm sorry. I'm not a musician. Music waved goodbye to me a very long time ago. The closest I get to music is singing in my car on the way to work in the summertime. One time, I sang so much that I accidentally ran a red light in the middle of rush hour. That didn't go over too well with the people that were behind me. Got a lot of mad faces, got a lot of horns that honked at me, got a lot of middle fingers in my face. And I gave the middle finger right back to them because I was like, you know what? People are entitled to sing in cars when they're by themselves. Especially people that aren't good at singing, like myself. And it had been a long day at work, and I was like, hey, cut me some slack. I don't intentionally run red lights. Everybody screws up when they're driving now and then. And listening to classical music and singing to it is, I guess, one way that it can happen. Fortunately, there were no police officers around, and I did not get caught. Had I got caught, I would have had a pretty darn good excuse. I said, officer, it's been a long day at work. I never run red lights, never do things like this. I was just singing to get myself into a better mood for this evening. The officer said, okay, well, go on your merry way. And I would have said, thanks. There's a difference between intentionally running a red light and unintentionally doing it, I think. Again, I'm not a lawyer, I'm also not a police officer. I'm a policymaker, though, and if I had to make policy, I'd say that anybody that runs a red light unintentionally because they were singing classical music to themselves, you should get a free pass at that. That's my personal viewpoint. Many people will disagree. Let's move on to some other things that are classic. You get classical cars, you get classical music, you got classical, I don't know. Now, there's such a thing as classical airplanes. I guess you got classical people, too, also. Important people who are classical. Business leaders, politicians, like Bach and Mozart and George Washington and John A. Macdonald and classical people. You got classic is a word that you can use to describe about anything. Hey, he's a classic. I've heard people say that about people. Hey, what a classic. It's the classics. That's what this show's about. Classics. This show could be classified as a classic if you want to go that route. It could be. It could be a classic someday. Not right now, but eventually. Hey, I don't know. Why not? It's possible. So, classics. Oh, also too, classics can be things like, my phone is ringing. Oh no, it's just a text. Okay, so what was I talking about? Oh yeah, like a VHS tape. That's a classical thing. Nobody uses video cassettes anymore. They are a classic. Just like, I don't know, what else like that is a classic? Like classical technology like that. You got floppy disks. I think of that because I'm holding, this is a USB key. A floppy disk is a classical thing to store information on. Just as a video cassette is a classical way to watch a movie. Most people use Netflix now. Most people use these. Or those weird cloud sharing things, which I frankly don't understand. I don't know why you would want to put your work on the internet in a cloud, quote unquote. I don't get that. If somebody would want to explain that to me, that would be great, but I don't understand. Like the iCloud from Apple, or Google has one too, like the Google Cloud thinger, I don't know. I don't know. Why one would want to do that is beyond. So classical cars, classical music, classical people, classical technology. What's something else that I can discuss that's classic? I discussed the classic as from a figure of speech, which it is. So, right. Classics. Religion, could that be a classic? Not really, because people still have religion now. Right, well, I guess that's what all I have to talk about. And we are coming up on that time where it's time for me to end the program. So, I shall do that. Tomorrow, we have a topic that is very pertinent to this time of year. Baseball. Baseball is a summer sport. And opening weekend for the Major League Baseballers was this past weekend. Opening day, I think, was the 31st. And this weekend was the first week that it really got going. So I look forward to that. And again, mentioning this all the time, we're wrapping up our season here on Daily Life. 2 weeks from now, it will be the last week. So the rest of this week, you want to mark it down in your calendars, folks. The rest of this week, and then the next week is a break week for Easter, okay? And then the week after that will be the last week of shows for this television season, culminating with the 100th episode of Daily Life, April 25th, 2014. Stay tuned. We got a good show coming up tomorrow on baseball. I hope you have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye bye now.